Once again, I'm joined by session guitarist Tommy Webb here at the Marshall studio. Tommy is a great guitarist, does a lot of work here with the Marshall record label, and when he's not playing with Marshall artists and other artists, Tommy is also a guitar teacher and a fan of the rock school graded exams. I think you've got a couple of grades yourself, you took?
Yeah, 6 and 8.
6 and 8, yeah, you see, no messing about there, just doing 6 and 8. That shows you how good Tommy is. So it's really nice to have been working with him today, finding tones. We've worked through a few different tones, and now we've arrived at kind of 80s rock, is how we've described it, isn't it? So if you're used to the rock school repertoire, or you're just a fan of rock and guitar music, we're talking about sounds like the Summer of '69 by Bryan Adams, those sort of classic rock guitar sounds that were popular throughout the 80s. And we used this fantastic amp here to create it. So tell us a little bit about the amp and how we arrived at that 80s rock sound.
So yeah, the JCM 800 is kind of the Marshall rock sound.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
It's all we've been talking about of the overdrive pedals in a box. It's that in an amp, really. So yeah, if you want the rocky sound, it's going to be from this. It's got the master channel as opposed to the other two amps, and that allowed us to turn the preamp up and keep the master low, meaning we could really drive it and get that distortion without it being, you know, taking up the whole room with volume. In terms of bass, mids and trebles, the bass and the mids were pushed a bit past 12 o'clock to give it that warm sound. We weren't really trying for a harsh rock sound. It was quite smooth and melodic and a lot of sustain. And then yeah, the treble around 12 o'clock, just to you know, keep it not too harsh, not too dull. And then yeah, apart from the amp, as this doesn't have reverb built in, we used a reverb pedal just to give it some space and some feel. But if you've got reverb, I'd say around the 12 o'clock mark. You don't want it swimming in reverb. So what that means is when you play a note, it lasts forever. It just becomes a bit of a mush of noise. But then without it, it sounds a bit too dry. So around 12 o'clock, you're going to get the best of both. And then yeah, this amp with the humbuckers in the Les Paul really pushed it to give us a lot of sustain, that Gary Moore kind of sound. So it's not harsh rock, it's that mellow, really sustained sound. And yeah, on the neck pickup and the middle, just to blend the two together and come up with some different tones was what we did for this.
And if you're not as fortunate as we are to have a great, fantastic 4x12 cab and a JCM 800, if you've got a different brand of amplifier at home, maybe you've got a combo, something smaller, what are the general things that you can aim for to get that sort of classic 80s rock sound?
Yeah, so if you had a combo amp and it had an overdrive channel, we'd want to put it on overdrive and have the gain relatively high. If you have the gain knob quite high up, maybe 3 o'clock. And then if you do have any time-based effects like reverb or delay built in, any of those is going to be, it's up to your own interpretation, but that is going to lend itself to that style of music. And then yeah, as we said with the EQ, just keeping it, everyone's got their own taste, but around that middle mark is going to be pretty good for the type of music.
And every amp is different. I mean, we had, I think, 3 JCM 800s that we switched around between today, and each one of those 3 was different. So your amp at home is going to be a little bit different, and even if you've got one of these at home and you're playing around trying to find that sound, it'll also be slightly different. So use your ears, experiment, adjust the tone. If you've got an overdrive channel, as Tommy said, you crank that one up. If you've got a preamp and a master, more pre, less master, unless you want to upset the neighbours, will get you pretty close. Let's have a little think about what we did with the guitar.
So yeah, with the guitar, we chose the Les Paul again. Just as it's got the humbuckers, it gives that really smooth, sustained sound, which you can get from a Strat, but a lot easier with a Les Paul or humbuckers. And I chose to go for the middle. Just as the bass, we had quite a lot, the amp, we had quite a lot of bass in it. I didn't want it too muddy. So having the bridge pickup in there smooths it out a bit and doesn't let it get too muffled.
If you do have a Stratocaster, would you also go with the neck, or would you do the sort of that in-between out of phase?
Yeah, so I would go with the neck. I think with the out of phase, it loses quite a lot of its body. So leaving it on the neck, but in the style, it's very common to flick between. You're not, if you're soloing or playing, it doesn't have to stick just on one sound. So for a lot of the sweep picking stuff, I'd be on the neck.
Yeah.
But for some of the fast shreddy stuff, maybe, or bends, you want to be on the bridge, and that's just going to change up your sound throughout the solo and add some interest to it. And then yeah, volume all the way up. If you roll it off on a high gain amp, you're going to lose some of that distortion, which you don't really want for this style of music. So everything on 10, and then the same for the tone, all on 10.
Yeah, very good point. You can, during your solo, switch things up. You can switch your pickup positions up to get different sounds, and you can clean a sound up a little bit if you need to by rolling back the volume. But for that classic 80s rock sound, we just want to turn them all the way up. Yeah, everything up to 10. Enjoy that distortion. Make sure it doesn't get sort of too muddy, so we've got a little bit of clarity there, and turn it up. So you'll hear a little bit of that now in our 80s rock jam, as well as some just solo things from Tommy, so you can hear the tone a little bit better.